Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, respected principal ma'am, middle and secondary school headmistress Ms. Madhu Uppal, teachers, parents, and all my dear students. A very good afternoon to you all, and a hearty welcome to the grade 9 and 10 parent orientation, which is only on the revised assessment structure and exam pattern. A most eagerly waited orientation, of course, by parents, and even we were eagerly waiting to convey this from our end. I hope my voice is clear to everyone.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Yes, so after this orientation, hopefully all your doubts and concerns would be clear. So this, with the intention of clearing all your concerns, we have arranged this orientation where we will be mainly speaking about the revised assessment structures, syllabus, and the exam patterns. First and foremost, let me call upon our respected principal ma'am to address the gathering who are virtually present here. Ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sujit. A very good afternoon to parents and my dear students. I'm happy to reconnect with you all, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. As Mr. Sujit has already mentioned the agenda of this parent orientation program. Well, we at DPS Monarch believe that effective communication between the parents and teachers helps improve academic performance of the students and their overall growth. So ongoing communication with you and your children is very essential for us to make sure that we all are on the same page. And this is the objective of today's orientation session. Well, today's orientation day is an opportunity for existing as well as new parents and students to know more about grade 9 and 10 CBSE examination pattern and the recent changes which have been recommended by CBSE. So according to the latest update on the revised CBSE exam pattern, 2 board exams or term end exams will be conducted for the current batch, and each board exam or term exam will have 50% of the syllabus. And based on the new CBSE internal assessment pattern, the syllabus for the academic session 21-22 has been divided into 2 terms. So likewise, there are more updates for you and your children to know what are those changes and how school would be preparing your children for the examination with these changes. So our secondary team of teachers, along with headmistress Ms. Madhu Uppal and academic coordinator Mr. Sujit Kumar, would be talking in details about the latest pattern of examination. Parents, your queries are most welcome, and we would be delighted to talk to as many parents as possible. And that's our aim for today's session. But if you need a longer discussion about new exam system, syllabus, or anything specific about your own child, it's best to make a separate appointment so we can make sure that we have time to talk with you properly. And I would like to take this opportunity to share a good news with you all that we are fully affiliated school from CBSE up to senior secondary now. And this our first batch would be joining grade 11 with us next year, March. And school has already taken certain initiatives to make sure that we provide the best learning environment for our senior school students. And I would like to highlight here that we would be offering a wide range of subjects for our students. And soon we would be starting a career counseling program, mentoring young minds, along with internship program for our grade 11 students. So this was just a quick update about our next year planning for grade 11, because this is the current that would be joining us in grade 11. So we would be definitely conducting separate sessions for this in coming days, and you'll know more about grade 11. And that will also help you to perform better in your grade 10. So for now, let us focus on today's agenda. And I hope today's session would be very useful for you and your child to get ready for grade 10 board examination. And there's no anxiety, no examination fear, and we all feel confident that our first set of students would give their best. So over to Mr. Sujit Kumar Thank you once again for joining us and have a good evening ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, indeed, this session would be very fruitful and helpful for the parents and even for us that we wanted to convey to everyone. Moving ahead, to begin with this, before we start, I would request all the parents to keep themselves mute until unless you're asked to unmute yourself. And you can also drop in your questions and concerns in the chat box, where we will be entertaining it by the end of the session, and it will be given to the respective subject leaders. Yes, moving up next, we have to explain about revised curriculum overview. Let me call upon our middle and secondary school headmistress. Ma'am, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sujit, and good afternoon and very warm welcome to all the parents and students to this virtual space, which we'll be sharing for next 1.5 hours. So I know that it's been very challenging and tough, and this year has been full of uncertainties, but there are so many updates that keeps coming, and we always try to update parents and students as well as entire teacher fraternity as and when we receive any update from CBSE. So the purpose of conducting this workshop, this orientation, as ma'am has already said, to explain you more about the detailed structure, which has been recently released by the CBSE. And it's very important for parents as well as students to know about all these details so that they are prepared better and they understand the importance of certain aspects of assessment pattern as well as the entire revised structure, so that parents can also help the children at home. And as we know, as per the new education policy, now the shift is there from content to competency. And the highlight is that we need to have such an assessment system that encourage learning and to enable high quality education in real life scenario. So the focus is more on developing the creative and critical thinking capacities. As we can see the sample papers which have been released, there's a lot of changes which has come up. So certain changes which have been initiated, I would say it started from the month of April itself. Can we move to the next? So I would highlight here the circular number 31, which was released by the CBSE in the month of April, and which states that there is a need to have a shift toward the competency-based learning. And hence it indicated that there are going to be, entire system assessment structure is going to be changed, and which is proposed by CBSE. As per the revised instruction which has come, we had already modified our periodic assessments, and we have started including case-based studies, this question source-based, as well as assertion and reasoning-based. Because as per this circular, if we look at the second part of the circular, moving to the next slide, the weightage which has been given to the objective type question is 20%, and 30% to the competency based, which is your case-based study questions, and 50% to the long answer questions. So the entire pattern has been revised, and as per the revised pattern, we always try to give the practice to the children during the periodic test, so which has been already incorporated. If we move to the next, the circular number 53, which I would like to highlight here. And as per the pandemic situation in India, as we all know, that CBSE could not conduct the board examination in the previous session. So there was a lot of uncertainty on the part of the whole evaluation process. So it was expected that we'll have some system in place where the schools are going to have the reports of the assessment of the children in a more consistent manner. So the internal assessment has been given a weightage, wherein school is going to take care of all the records, what all activities children are doing. And this circular released in the month of July, which states that now instead of having the board examination the end of the year, we will have the examination in 2 terms, that is term 1 and term 2. And the detailed syllabus for each and every subject has been released by CBSE. And we had already shared with the parents, I think within that week itself, where the bifurcation and the weightage and all the components have been explained very well. So if we look at the entire structure, which has a major change, which reflect a major change, we can have a look here. To make it more clear, we can see this term 1 and term 2, which is the 2 terms. Now the assessment structure has been revised. And in term 1, the MCQ based question will be there along with the case study and assertion and reasoning based question. and the weightage will be 50% of the term 1 syllabus only. So it's not that the child has to prepare the entire syllabus in end of the year to appear for exam. Now it has been divided between 50% between both the terms. And the duration will be 90 minutes and the child has to appear for 40 MCQ. Though it may vary the number of questions subject to subject, because today itself we have released another notice has been released by CBSE, wherein they have already mentioned the number of questions may vary subject to subject as per the requirement, and accordingly the marks would be adjusted. And another highlights of term 1 pattern is external examiner or invigilators will be appointed to conduct the exam, and children will be writing the exam through OMR sheet. That also we have already planned that in term 1 pre-board examination, we are going to give that practice to the children so that they are well familiar before appearing for the board exams, which is already scheduled on pre-board term 1 in the month of October. So the weightage of internal assessment is 10 marks, which comprises periodic test and multiple assessment, portfolio, speaking and listening activities in all the languages, and the practicals in science. And here I would like to highlight that all the components of internal assessment are very important. And I would suggest parents to pay attention that what all activities, assignments, classwork, homework children are doing during the sessions. It's very important. All the teachers are recording it for the evidence, and we are going to mark the internal assessment on the basis of their regular performance. And if we look at the pattern which is given here for the second term, which is a little different in terms of the question paper pattern and the duration, that is will be 2 hours, and in that there will be short and long answer type question, but along with the case study based question. And as per the plan till now, if the situation is favorable, the exam will be conducted at the external examination center if everything goes well, and otherwise there will be a different situation and weightage will also be distributed differently. In case of any uncertain situation, the term 2 will be the same as per the pattern of term 1 with 90 minutes, and MCQ pattern will be followed. The final score of the child would include both the terms. So it's like term 1 and term 2. So the final evaluation, that is the most confusing question here. How are we going to evaluate? Let's move to the next slide so that you are more clear about it. So the first situation, okay, the paper pattern, I would just elaborate a little more here, wherein we can just see, as I've already explained, the duration will be accordingly. Term 1 and term 2, it will be term 1, this 90 minutes, and term 2, there will be 2 hours. MCQ based question entirely, MCQ pattern for term 1, and wherein term 2 there will be long, and we can say objective and descriptive. This is how it has been divided. Term 1 is completely objective, and term 2 there will be more descriptive questions will be there. So the children will be given practice accordingly. This will be explained for all the subjects also. Moving on to next, that how to evaluate children. Final assessment. So in this, we can see the situation 1 as per CBSE. If it is normal situation, both the term 1 and 2 exam will be conducted in the external examination centers, and equal weightage for both the terms. And whichever exam child will be appearing from home, in case of severe pandemic situation, weightage will be less. On the other hand, the exam conducted in the formal arrangement, I can say, which is in school or the external examination center, it will carry more weightage. And if in case both the terms it is conducted from home, then equal weightage will be given to all the components, including internal assessment and the record which child which will be recorded during all the assessment, which will be taken into consideration during the school education. The assessment pattern for each and every subject that we are going to explain in detail so that children can be guided well, and the parents and teachers they can work collaboratively, because we need a lot of support. There are a lot many changes, and children are involved in many activities, and teachers are also expecting them to submit on time, because there were certain queries regarding portfolios, like how the children are doing, what all is to be submitted. So we are prizing you with all these details for each and every subject so that there is more clarity on that part. And I hope this orientation will be very fruitful rather for all of us, and we would be able to prepare our children better, and so that they can score good marks in board exams. So thank you everyone for the patient listening. And now I would like to call Mr. Sujit to provide more details regarding the other important components of internal assessment, and which will be followed by the subject specific details by the teachers of grade 9 and 10 to brief you more about each and every subject. Over to you, Mr. Sujit.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think I'm very sure that now the parents are very much clear about the complete exam pattern. Thank you for that elaborate explanation about exam patterns and also about the report card calculations. Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, moving ahead, it's time that we know about the assessment criteria. And mainly, if I have to speak about, this has been also revised, where initially we spoke about 80 as external assessment as 80 marks and internal assessment as 20 marks. Now this has been reduced term-wise and has been done as 10 marks for internal assessment and 40 marks for external assessment term-wise. I'm saying again term-wise. So term 1 will have this structure, and again in term 2 we'll have the same structure to carry it forward. Moving up in the next slide, what are the components we have in the internal assessment? So there are no much changes in the components of internal assessments. So we have the same periodic assessments, multiple assessment, portfolio, and subject enrichment. However, there are 1 or 2 subjects where they have changed the components of internal assessment, that when the subject leaders are explaining, they will give you in detail about the changes of components. At present, in general, we have the 4 components. As I said, it will be periodic assessment, multiple assessment, portfolio, and subject enrichment. Moving up next, the allocation, the mark allocation. Yes, the subject enrichment, as I said, the internal assessment, as I said, is for 10 marks, and the 4 components where periodic assessment carries 3 marks, multiple assessments carries 2 marks, portfolio carries 2 marks, and subject enrichment activities and projects carries 3 marks. So that sum up to 10 marks. And the term end examination, I'm mentioning it as term end examination because we have 2 exams now for grade 9 and 10. That is at the end of term 1 and at the end of term 2. So term end examination, both the exams will be for 40 marks, regardless of whatever the pattern is. As ma'am was explaining that term 1 would be entirely MCQs and term 2 will be descriptive. So whatever may be the pattern, it will be for 40 marks. So altogether, we have 40 marks from term end examination, 10 marks from internal assessment, which will be total up to sum it up to 50 marks. So the total paper will be for 50 marks. Moving ahead, let me explain about the periodic assessment. So periodic test, there's a little changes done, been revised, that we will be having the 3 periodic tests in 1 academic year. Let me tell you, it's in 1 academic year. It's not in 1 term. But what we are doing is we are dividing this 3 periodic tests as such that first 2 periodic tests will be taken in term 1, and the best periodic test mark scored by a student, either in periodic test 1 or 2, that will be considered and will be converted to 3 marks. Whereas in the second term, we'll be having 1 periodic test and the marks of that will be converted to 3 marks. So 2 places where we consider the periodic test. As I said, the first term, we'll be having 2 periodic tests. The best periodic mark will be considered and converted to 3 marks. And in the second, we'll have 1 periodic test where the mark is converted to 3 marks. And as I said, assessment where the periodic test will consist of 3 marks out of 10 marks of internal assessment. Moving next is multiple assessment. This pattern remains the same, that it is according to the CBSE, the authority is given to the school. We can have n number of concept recaps. We can have oral test, individual or group assessments, map works, graphs, activities, assignments. All these could be assessed and all these come under 1 roof. We say it as multiple assessment, which altogether taken for 2 marks out of the entire 10 mark internal assessment. Moving up next with the third component, which is a very important component, which is known as portfolio. Yes, Ma'am was speaking that as per HM ma'am, it is to be submitted to the CBSE board. So we have to keep the digital record, digital evidence of this. And we say this portfolio is entirely a work done by the student. It consists of the work done by the student, which includes efforts, progress, growth, achievements of the student. It includes design of the work. It includes neatness, visual appeal, and the creativity. All the completion of guided work under the guidance of teachers, students' knowledge, formation of all the relevant work. In precise, if I have to say, at present, we say in my next slide, we say this portfolio now as a digital portfolio because everything is maintained digitally and we are submitting this to the CBSE board digitally. So the evidence of every class work and the homework is to be maintained digitally, which our teachers are doing. Also under portfolio, we'll have subject enrichment activities, certificates of merit, or any achievements what the student has incurred in this academic year. Paintings and other exemplary works, audio video recordings, self-assessment sheets, peer and teacher assessment sheets, any kind of any literary works or creative works done by the students. And to include, we also have the assignments submitted by the students or any social work done by the students. Let me repeat, all these will be taken digitally and the evidence of this will be submitted to the CBSE board. So that's why we expect students also to submit to us as a digital evidence. This is all about portfolio, which carries 2 marks out of 10 marks of internal assessment. In my next slide, I would like to speak about the subject enrichment or the projects what we had given to the students. So this carries 3 marks and it assesses the practicals, project works, and your language skill of a student. So the subject improvement activity could be like the subject, language subject, the listening and speaking skills, the vocabulary will be assessed. Whereas for math and science, it would be practical works will be examined. For a subject like social science, some relevant project work like map will be evaluated. So this goes under subject enrichment, which is valuable 3 marks out of 10 marks of the internal assessment. So this is all about the components of internal assessments and the marks and gradings for the internal assessment. This internal assessment marks should be considered equally important as our term end exams and need to be submitted timely to the teachers so that teachers can evaluate and submit it further to the CBSE board. As such, as I was saying that there will be 2 exams from the CBSE board where term 1 report card will be published and term 2 report card will be published and everything will be issued by the CBSE board with respect to grade 10, whereas grade 9 will be issued by the school authorities. And to continue in my next slide, the monthly progress review report will remain same. It will be based on the concept recaps what we are taking. This will continue. This will continue that we will be issuing it on in those months where we don't have any major exams like periodic test or maybe any major exams like term end exams. Other than those, we will be issuing the monthly progress review report to the parents monthly. So based on that, the rubrics for the evaluation again remain same. AS as accomplished skills, ES as established skills, and DS as developing skills, and NS as needs support. So all these are about the progress reports and the assessment criteria and also the internal assessment components I have to tell about. So to move ahead, let me call upon the exam cell coordinator, Mr. Jamal Yusuf, to clearly give us the detail of examination which will be conducted in the academic year 2021-22. Over to you, Yusuf, sir.
Thank you, Sujit, sir. Good afternoon, one and all. As per the recent update from CBSE, there will be 2 term and board examinations conducted in the month of November, December, and March, April. Let us move on to the next slide. In order to prepare our students for the first term board examinations, we will be having a pre-board examination and a periodic test. The periodic test 2 will be starting in the 2nd week of September. Pre-board practicals will be conducted in between 23rd of September to 3rd October. Pre-board examinations will be starting in the third week of October. First term examinations, including practical, will be conducted in the month of November and December. For the first term board examination, the assessment format includes only multiple choice questions in which case-based assertion and reasoning type of questions are expected. As per the general instructions from CBSE, duration of assessment is 90 minutes, but it differs slightly for a few subjects. The marks allotted is 40. Let us move on to the next slide. In order to prepare our students for the second term board examination, we are planning to have a pre-board examination and a periodic test. The periodic test 3 will be starting in the second week of January, and the pre-board examination, including practical, will be starting in the first week of February. The second term board examinations, including practical, will be conducted in the month of March and April. For the second term board examination, the assessment format includes multiple choice questions, short answer type questions, long answer type questions. The duration of the assessment is 2 hours. The marks allotted is 40. Now I request Mr. Mohanish, co-exam cell in charge of DPS Monarch, to explain further.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. So as we have put the grade 9 first term examination first in September, but in the last month we got a revised curriculum from the CBSE. That's why we have shifted first term examination now in the month of October. So to get a practice for the student, we have kept a periodic test 2 in the second week of September, and we'll be taking a practical exam from 26 September to 3rd of October. And the first term examination, which is postponed, will be in the third week of October now. And the assessment format will be taking same as grade 10, because CBSE has issued a circular, like we will be following the same pattern from 9 to 12. So we are doing the same thing for the grade 9 also. So format will be same as the grade 10, which is MCQ based. So it will be case based, question, assertion, reasoning, and the case like normal MCQs, and the duration will be 90 minutes and maximum marks will be 40. Let's go to next slide. And second term exam for grade 9 will be taking one periodic test 3, that is in the third week of November. Then we'll be taking revision test, which will be after winter break, that will be in third week of January. Then we'll be having second term examination, including practical, in the second week of February. And the format will be following same as grade 10. So they will have again the 40 marks paper, 2 hours duration, which will have MCQ, short answer and long answer type. Let's go to next slide. Yes, so I will call upon now Mr. Robin sir to explain you about the English subject.
Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, and my dear students. Happy to meet you on this virtual platform. There are a few changes which we have to tell in English. See, this is as common for all the subjects, for where we have reading 10 marks the weightage, writing and grammar 10, literature 20, total 40, and internal assessment is 10. And the total of the exam is 50. The next slide. See, class 9 and 10, the reading assessment is the same. There will be a passage, a discursive passage, maybe discursive, it means explaining in detail about some process, 400 to 450 words. This is one thing, and from that 5 marks. Then case-based factual passage. Here we give visual pictures may be given, a statistical data may be given, and the students have to write. In the next slide, I'm explaining further about the grammar. Grammar 9 and 10, it's the same. Tenses, modals, subject verb, concord, determiners, reported speech, commands, and request statements. And as an information, I tell the parents, I have given for the first first 4 parts, determiners, 100 sentences I given as MCQs. And students' questions are, should I study all this? No, don't study that. It's not possible. Read them and analyze whether you're right. And the answers are given, cross-check. In the next slide, the writing skill for class 10 and 9, this is the difference. See, class 10, we have formal letter, letter to the editor, and letter of complaint. In second term, we have letter of order and letter of inquiry. The next slide, ma'am. Yeah, great. Then we come into the literature part. So we have 5 lessons. Let me tell you something about this. See, for example, there's a lesson called as, so can you go to the next slide, sir, please? Madam, yeah. We have a lesson here, Triumph of Surgery. My concentration and our objective was to tell the students that pampering will spoil the child because value-based education. And now I could find some questions very interesting. What was the color of the dog's collar? So students, I know that even if I give a pen and paper now and ask them to write an essay, they will get very beautiful marks. But most of them may not have noticed the color of the dog's collar. So I would request the students to read line by line, and I have given enough number of MCQ questions for each lesson in the, already I have given them in the teams. And one request for the parents is, you have to check whether your son is using a pencil or a pen to underline the textbook, because the way that they are learning is different. Okay. And actually what I'm doing in the school is, we are doing a reteaching, concentrating on all these minor details. If there is a number, they should underline. If there is a year, they should underline. We are not checking the language totality. Thank you. And next slide, please. Okay, term 2 literature, another 4 lessons. And these lessons are very interesting lessons. Students will do that. Next slide, please. And again, we have 3 poems. Then Footprints Without Feet. In the book, we have another 4 lessons, all beautifully interesting lessons. Then writing part for class 9, it changes. Please, next slide. Writing for class 9 is a descriptive paragraph in person, short story based on beginning line of cues. Then again, a descriptive paragraph and story writing. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, literature. We have 5 lessons for the first term from the Beehive book, and the poems. We have 4 poems, then 3 non-detailed lessons, supplementary reader. Supplementary reader, we never make them read very curiously, but now we need them to get prepared for MCQ, so they have to go line by line. Okay, this is the second term portions, again 4 lessons, all interesting lessons. The next slide, sir. Then the poems, 3 poems and 3 supplementary reader lessons. The next slide, please. Okay, there's a big question from the students. How are you going to test the writing part in MCQ? This is the format that we have got from the CBSE. See, for example, this question you can understand. You are Debashri, a resident of Siliguri, Assam. You have to write a letter to the editor of National Daily, drawing attention towards the difficulty faced by differently able people at tourist places. Select the option which is relevant. We are not actually making them to write the letter. The letter is given. So they have to imagine and just choose the option. It is really very easy. But of course, we are not testing the language skills, but this is the method the questions will be answered. The same will be done for short stories also. We'll be given a lot of options. Now, I request Mr. Manish to take the stage. Mr. Manish.
Yeah. Good afternoon, one and all. Thank you, sir. I will like to talk about the different grade 10 course structure here for term 1 and term 2. Let's talk about grade 10 course structure here. Now, grade 10 course structure for term 1 is divided into 7 different units. named number systems, algebra, coordinate geometry, trigonometry, mensuration, and statistics and probability. The mark distribution as per number systems 6 marks, algebra for 10 marks, coordinate geometry for 6 marks, geometry for 6 marks, trigonometry 5 marks, mensuration 4 marks, and statistics and probability 3 marks. Total for the term 1 examination will be for 40 marks. Internal assessment again for term 1 will be for 10 marks. So total term 1 exam will be of 50 marks. Now moving to the next slide. Grade 10 term 2 course structure will have 5 new units: algebra, geometry, trigonometry, mensuration, statistics and probability. Algebra will carry 10 marks, geometry will carry 9 marks, trigonometry will carry 7 marks, mensuration 6 marks, and statistics and probability 8 marks. Total again 40 marks for the term and examination. Internal assessment again for term 2 will be of 10 marks, total will be 50 marks. Now let's talk about the different chapters in different units. For term 1 syllabus in grade 10, number systems will include the chapter real numbers. Algebra will consist of polynomials, pair of linear equations in 2 variables. Coordinate geometry will have the chapter coordinate geometry. Geometry will consist of the chapter triangles. Trigonometry will have introduction to trigonometry, and mensuration will have areas related to circles. Moving to the next slide. For term 2, the unit algebra will have quadratic equations and arithmetic progressions. Geometry will have circles and constructions. Trigonometry will consist of some applications of trigonometry. Mensuration will have surface areas and volumes. And statistics and probability will have only statistics. So that's about the grade 10 course structure. I would like to call upon Mr. Monish, sir, to talk about the grade 9 course structure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So for grade 9th also, we have divided into based on the units. So basically these units are the broad topic. In that there are sub chapters. Okay. So like broad topics like number system, we have algebra, coordinate geometry, mensuration, and statistic and probability. So all these units have a certain proportion of the marks, which add up to total 40 marks. So term 1, you will have to give for 40 marks term exam. And the internal assessment will be based on this unit only, which will be for 10 marks. So total 50 marks for term 1. Let's go to next slide. So for term 2 also, the units remains the same. So don't be confused between the units. So unit remain the same, but there are some different chapters taken from these units, which will cater total to 40 marks. So this 40 marks will be for term 2. So good thing what CBSE has introduced is the chapters which you will learn in term 1, which it will not be for term 2. So term 2, you will have a different units. Yes. So 40 and 10, it will be 50. So for student point of view, you have to remember the chapters. Don't go on the unit. So unit is the broad topic. So go on chapter wise. So you have to remember the chapters which are coming for term 1, like number system, linear equation 2 variables, coordinate geometry, lines and angles, triangles, Heron's formula, and from statistic and probability, only statistic is coming. So these chapters you have to remember for term 1. And these are the chapters: polynomials, quadrilaterals, circles, construction, application of trigonometry, surface area and volume, and probability. So you have to learn only chapters in term 1 for term 1 exam, and the chapters for term 2 for term 2 exam. So 2 chapters means term 1 portion will not be repeated in term 2 as it was in the last year. Okay, so next slide. So these are the general instruction for the term 1 paper. For maths, we have like, you will get total 3 sections, 3 part we say, A, B, C, which will consist of 50 questions. So out of 50 questions, so section A will contain 20 questions of 1 mark, which you have to attempt 16 questions. So there's an internal option given to you. Section B will also consist of 20 questions, but you have to attempt 16 questions. Section C will also consist of 10 questions based on case studies. Any 8 questions you have to attempt. So in total, you will get 50 questions, but you have to attempt 40 questions, which will consist of 40 marks. And time allocated is 90 minutes. And there is no negative marking for it. Next. So these are some sample questions which will be in the maths. So this is a picture-based MCQ. So this will test the observation skill of the student. So you have to observe the diagram very carefully and find out which concept of maths it will be useful here. Okay, so basically you have to learn the concept nicely and observe the diagram and get the solution. Second is case study based. So in this you will get real life application, real life situation, something will be given to you. You have to read the paragraph properly, understand from which chapter it is from, and then with that concept or the theory you have to answer some question based on this case study. Yes, next. And third category is assertion and reasoning based. So in this, one assertion, one statement will be given to you and one reason will be given to you. So now you have to think it carefully whether first you have to check assertion is correct, then you have to check reason is correct or not, then you have to check whether the reason is a correct explanation of the assumption. So you will get 4 options like A, B, C, D, and you have to take one of them. Okay, so these are the categories of the question from the maths. Now I request Ms. Jyoti ma'am to explain for science.
Thank you, Monish sir. Good afternoon all. I'm Jyoti Mohanty and I'm here to give you a brief idea about the changes in science subject. Looking into the present scenario, syllabus has been designed for the effective and less stressful learning process. So the syllabus for the academic session 2021-22 is divided into 2 terms. Let's start with grade 10, term 1 evaluation scheme. In term 1, there will be 3 units. In unit 1, the chapter which is related to term unit 1 is chemical substance, nature and behavior, which includes chapter number 1, 2 and 3, which carries 16 marks. Second unit, world of living. It includes the chapter number 6, which carries 10 marks. Unit 3, natural phenomena, chapter 10 and 11, which carries 14 marks. So the total theory marks comes to 40 marks. 10 marks will be given for the internal assessment, where the grand total will become 50 marks. Similarly, for this term 2, in term 2 also, the units are 1, 2, 4 and 5. From unit 1, it is chemical substance, nature and behavior, where the chapters are 4 and 5 chapter, which carry 10 marks. Unit 2, world of living, the chapter number 8 and 9, which carries 13 marks. Unit 4, effects of current, chapter number 12 and 13, which carries 12 marks. Unit 5, natural resources, chapter number 15, which carries 5 marks. So the total theory marks comes to 40. The internal assessment for the term 2 will be 10 marks. So which comes to a grand total of 50 marks. Now, in order to give a practice to the children, CBSE says to follow the same pattern for grade 9 too. So in grade 9, the bifurcation of the syllabus is Unit 1, 2 and 3. In Unit 1, matter, its nature and behavior, chapter number 2, which carries 9 marks. Unit 2, organization in the living world, chapter 5 and 6, which carries 18 marks. Unit 3, motion, force and work, chapter number 8 and 9, which carries 13 marks. Again, the theory paper will be of 40 marks. Internal assessment 10 marks, which comes to a grand total of 50 marks. Coming up to the next. Similarly, for the term 2 as well, we have Unit 1, 2 and 3. For Unit 1, matter, its nature and behavior, it's chapter number 3 and 4, which carries 18 marks. Unit number 2, organization in the living world, chapter number 13, carries 8 marks. Unit 3, motion, force and work, which is chapter number 10 and 11, which carries 14 marks. So the total theory paper comes as 40, internal assessment 10, and grand total of 50. Coming to the next, talking about the internal assessment, which is same for both grade 9 and 10. Now the internal assessment is of 10 marks each. Like any other subject, the bifurcation is same. except for the subject enrichment, which includes the practical work, and that carries 3 marks. Rest remains the same, the periodic assessment 3 marks, multiple assessment 2 marks, and portfolio 2 marks. Here, only the subject enrichment changes. We are including the practical work, which carries the 3 marks. Coming up to the regarding the theory paper pattern, the question paper will have a multiple choice questions, including our case-based studies, assertion reasoning questions, picture-based questions, and graph-based questions, which is common for all. This is for both 9 and 10. The general instruction for the paper is the question paper will carry total number of questions will be 60. In that, a child has to attempt 50 questions. And finally, the marks will be calculated out of 40. So here, 60 total questions. Questions to be attempted is 50, and then it will be changed into 40. Question paper will carry 3 sections. In section A, it has 24 questions, where the student have to attempt 20 questions. Section B, it has 24 questions. Again, they have to attempt any 20 questions. Section C will have 12 questions, where they have to attempt 10 questions. So all the questions will carry equal marks, but a good thing is there is no negative marking. At this stage, while science is still a common subject, the disciplines of physics, chemistry, and biology begins to emerge. For this, now I call my team of expert faculties to give you a brief idea about their own respective disciplines. Over to you, Mehnaz ma'am.
Thank you, Jyoti ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just give you a brief idea about my subject particularly. I'm talking about physics. So this is the syllabus for grade 9. In term 1, we are having 2 chapters in physics, which will be carrying 13 marks weightage. Whereas in term 2, again, we have 2 chapters, gravitation and work and energy, which will be for 14 marks. Now we'll see what about practicals. For grade 9, there is no practical in physics for term 1. But for term 2, we have 2 practicals in physics. And now let's talk about grade 10. In grade 10, term 1, we have 2 chapters, light, reflection and refraction. And second chapter is human eye and the colorful world, which will be carrying 14 marks. And for term 2, we have 2 chapters again, electricity, magnetic effects of current. And it will be for 12 marks in term 2. Now let's see what practicals we have for grade 10. Term 1, grade 10 is having 3 practicals based on chapter reflection and refraction. And in term 2, we just have 1 practical for grade 10. Now let's just see a few examples of what type of questions will be coming for the term 1 exam. As in physics, you all know we have numericals and derivation, but now as CBSE has changed the pattern, it is MCQs only. So students don't have to derive any equation or solve numerical. But here we give them numerical in the form of MCQ. So they just need to solve it on a rough sheet and choose the correct option and write the answer. MCQ can be picture based also. A graph can be given or a table. Question can be reason, assertion and reasoning type also. As described earlier, assertion, a statement will be given. Student have to read it carefully and read the reason, whether the reason is correct or not, and choose the appropriate option. And the third type is case study. So a case or a paragraph will be given, a story, something, and student have to read it carefully and answer the 4 questions which are based on the passage given. So these are the 3 types of questions that can be asked during the first term and second term exam. Now I would like Rajiv sir to elaborate chemistry syllabus and pattern. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mehnaz ma'am. Good afternoon, one and all. My name is Rajiv and I take chemistry for grade 9th and 10th. Let's talk about chemistry for grade 9th first. Talking about term 1 and 2, for grade 9, in term 1, we have chapter number 2 is matter around us pure, carrying 9 marks for term 1. And term 2, we have 2 chapters for chemistry, chapter 4 and 5, atom and molecules and structure of the atom, comprising of total 18 marks in term 2. So it makes a total of 27. One thing you have to note over here is chapter 1, which is matter in our surrounding, has been deleted from this year completely. So children don't have to study for chapter 1. And so total 27 marks will be given for the 9th. Moving on to the practicals for grade 9th chemistry. In term 1, we have 3 practicals based on the chapter and the concept which is already given in the NCERT textbook. It will give just a hand-on experience to understand a little bit more about the concept which they have already studied. In term 2, we have verification of law of conservation of mass in a chemical reaction. Only 1 practical for grade 9. Talking about grade 10th now. Grade 10th again divided into term 1 and term 2. In term 1, we have 3 chapters: chemical reaction, acid, base, and salts, and metal and non-metals. Total together, it will be 16 marks. And term 2 will be having 2 chapters: carbon and its compound, and periodic classification, comprising total of 10 marks. So chemistry in total will be for 26 marks in the final term. Moving on to the practicals for grade 10th, we'll be having 3 practicals based on the concept which is already taught in the chapters. First, second, and third. First will be finding the pH, second will be types of reaction, third will be on the basis of reactivity series. One thing also you have to note over here is in term 2, there will be no practicals for chemistry. So let's see the type of the question which is going to come in the exam. As already explained by my previous colleagues, assertion and reasons will be also asked in chemistry, in which will be 2 statements given to you. And for answering this question, a student has to be very crystal clear about the concepts which is asked. Because if you just make a simple mistake, your full answers may get wrong. So your 2 statements will be given, and on the basis of that, you have to find out either both are correct or not. And if they are correct, then the second reason is the correct explanation or not. So for that, concept should be very much clear on it. Moving on to the second type of question which can be asked in the exam is a picture-based question. And I'm very much sure that a picture-based question will be coming in the exam, because there are lots of experiments which may student not able to do due to this pandemic. So picture-based question will be helping them to understand a little more about it. So if you can see, one picture has been given and a question has been asked that which gas is coming out. And I hope all the students, if you are here, you're able to find out the answer is hydrogen over here, because there is a pop sound. Moving on to next type of question, which is table-based question. Again, there will be a table given. This also will be kind of based on practicals. Table will be given and a question on the basis of table will be asked to select from here which one is the correct or amphoteric oxides present. Moving on to the next type of the question. Can we have the next slide, please? Yes. This is the case study which is already talked about. The case which can be taken over here can be any from articles, any newspapers, any of your paragraphs in the textbook, anywhere. But there is nothing to worry about much. All the information is given. You have to just drag it from there, see from which chapter concept it has been asked, and you have to answer the question accordingly. Can you look to some questions asked on this? This is a salt story case study. Can we see the questions? Change the slide space. If you see, there are these 4 MCQs asked based on the previous case study. So you have to just go through the case study first. Then I will recommend all the students to first read the paragraph properly and then go to the questions, and don't jump to the questions directly. Moving on to the last type of question which can come, which is a normal MCQs, in which you have to just read the first statement of question and answer and select any one of the correct answer, which is the most suitable. So talking about chemistry, these are all the points. If they have any doubts in case of this, you are free to ask in the chat box, or you can personally mail to me. So now I request Neetu ma'am to handle the biology part for grade 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv sir. Good afternoon all. Coming to the biology part. For grade 9, term 1, from the unit 2, your organization, the living world, 2 chapters are there, chapter 5 and chapter 6. Weightage carries 18 marks. And in term 2, organization, the living world, same unit, but chapter is different. Chapter 13, the weightage is 8 marks. So total, overall, it is coming 26 for grade 9. So coming to the practicals of biology in 9th standard, term 1, there are 2 practicals. One is the observation of the temporary mound of onion peel and cheek cells. Second is the permanent slide observation. However, but in term 2, there will be no practicals from biology. Coming to grade 10 biology syllabus, term 1, unit 2, world of living consists of only 1 chapter, that is chapter 6, and weightage is 10 marks. Whereas in term 2, from the same unit, chapter 8 and chapter 9, the weightage is 13 marks, and overall total weightage is 23 marks. And when we discuss about the practicals of grade 10, term 1 practical is there, and in term 2 also 2 practicals, that means 2 permanent slide observation. Then coming to the sample questions, as per CBSE, the main questions that is observed here are diagram-based questions. When we talk about this 10th standard chapter 6 life process, there are almost 14 diagrams. This 14 diagrams, among them, it can come as an MCQ question. And here we have to focus one point is that only the labeling the students need to study along with the function. And it is a sure question for the CBSE board exam. Then coming to the next type, that is assertion and reasoning, same as with other bifurcated subjects. Here, 2 statements will be given. One is assertion, the other one will be reason. The student have to choose the correct connection between the two when the choices are given to them. Last one is the case study question. Here, the case study questions will be mainly from the activities that is given in the NCERT textbook. So there are almost for 10th standard chapter 6, 8 activities are given. In that, 4 are main ones and 4 are sub. And the case study questions along with the activity, 4 sub questions will also be asked along with the normal MCQs. So that's all about the biology part. Now I'd like to call Abban sir for explaining about social science. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Neetu ma'am. Good afternoon, dear parents and beloved students. Myself, Abban Samuel, and I will be speaking about social studies subject, mainly on the domains like history, political science, and economics. And later, Ms. Priyanka will elaborate you for the geography part. Now, when we start about the syllabus division for term 1, grade 9 SST, again, we know the domains are divided into 4, that is history, political science, economics, and geography. You can see for history, there is only 1 chapter, so it has the weightage of 10 marks. For political science, we have 2 chapters, so again, combinedly, they have 10 marks. Economics, 2 chapters, combinedly 10 marks. And when we include geography, that again combinedly has 10 marks. So overall weightage for SST would be 40 marks. Same way, moving on to grade 10, term 1. History again has only 1 chapter, so 10 marks weightage is for that. Political science, 2 chapters, 10 marks combined. Economics, 2 chapters, 10 marks combined. And geography, again, we have 3 chapters, 10 marks combined. For geography, Priyanka ma'am will be elaborating you at the later part. So moving on to grade 9, term 2. Thank you. History, we have 2 chapters, which again will be divided into 10. Political science, 2 chapters, so weightage 10. Economics, 1 chapter, weightage of 10. And geography, 3 chapters with a weightage of 10. So finally, it comes to 40. Same way for grade 10, term 2. History, we have 2 chapters with a weightage of 10. Here in history, we have 2 optional chapters, that is making of a global world and the age of industrialization. It is totally subject specific and students can select any one, but we here give preference to the making of global world. Second, political science, again, 2 chapters with 10 marks. Economics, 2 chapters with 10 marks. And finally, geography, 3 chapters with 10 marks, so accounting to total 40. Next. Now, since we know portfolio and subject enrichments are important part of the internal assessments, so portfolio here given to grade 9 for term 1 was the map work on First World War and the Second World War countries. Next. Same way, subject enrichment for grade 9 for term 1 was the project on disaster management, wherein they had to collect and present in the form of a wall magazine. And the reference also, a particular video reference is also mentioned there. Students have already submitted half of it, and we are waiting for the rest of the, so that we can move up with the internal assessment marks. And here we have the marking scheme for the project work, that is for the subject enrichment. Content accuracy, originality, and analysis carries 2 marks. Presentation and creativity carries 2 marks. Viva will carry 1 mark. Same way, we'll be having the portfolio and subject enrichment for grade 10. Here in term 1, we have portfolio on the topic that is Qatar pre-post FIFA World Cup 2022. They have to present it in the scrapbook. Then moving to subject enrichment, we have the topic that is consumer rights. Again, they had to prepare a wall magazine and send it up. Again, this SST was integrated with the art topic, and that is where they also had to make a comic strip. Students have already submitted. Again, we'll have the marking scheme here. Content accuracy, originality, and analysis, 2 marks. Presentation and creativity, 2 marks. Viva, 1 mark. So this sums up the entire syllabus division according to each domain and the internal assessments. Next. Now, as discussed, every particular subject has their own particular question paper pattern. Here also, for term 1, we have the MCQ, the case-based, and this assertion and reasoning. Total questions we have is 60, but the students have to attempt 50, which will be finally converted into a final of 40 marks. The question paper is divided into 4 sections. Section A with 24 questions, and the rest of the thing remains the same. That is, they have to attempt 20, 18. The instruction is clearly mentioned here, which is same as the other subjects, so no elaborating much on it. There is, may I request a parent to kindly mute yourself? Thank you. Now, moving on to the new paper pattern based on which the students will be evaluated. We have the MCQ question, which has been continued all these years. That remains the same, but still, we have the option here. We have the sample here with the options. Moving on to the next one. This is a new pattern which we have, that is on the pictorial based question. The statement will be given, a picture will be given. Student will have to identify the correct answer from the given options. Next. The new introduction by CBSE is the assertion and reason based question, wherein 2 statements will be given, an assertion statement and a reason statement. Students will have to read it and get with the options that are provided, that is A, B, C, or D. The thorough presentation, thorough explanation is given for this particular topics. Now, I would like to request Ms. Priyanka Das to come forward and take up the geography part. Over to you, Priyanka ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, one and all present here. So I will be briefing you about the revised syllabus for geography. For term 1, grade 9, we have only 2 chapters in geography, which account for a total of 10 marks as a component of SST as a whole. So these two chapters will be India, size and location, and physical features of India. Moving to grade 10. In grade 10, there will be 3 chapters for term 1. Resources and development, water resources and agriculture. But hereby it is to be noted that the theoretical aspect of the chapter water resources will only be evaluated in the periodic test. Students, they don't have to prepare for the theory portion in the board examination or in the term examination. They will only have to prepare for the map work, which will be included in the board examination. Moving to the next one, grade 9, term 2. There are 3 chapters: drainage, climate, natural vegetation, and wildlife. Again, here also, the board has reduced the burden from the shoulders of the students. So they don't have to prepare the theoretical portion of the drainage chapter. Only map items will be evaluated and assessed. Next, grade 10, term 2. There are 3 chapters again: minerals and energy resources, manufacturing industries, and lifelines of national economies. Similar to the previous ones, this chapter, minerals and energy resources, the theoretical aspect only to be evaluated in the periodic test, whereas map work will be evaluated in the board examination. Next, we have a sample of case-based question, as in the rest of the subjects is similar as the other subjects as well. Here we have a sample case-based question based on geography. However, case-based question can be from any of the component of SST, not specifically from geography. Next, we can see the options. Here we have 5 question, the students, they have to attempt any 5 questions out of the 6 questions that are given from the case-based questions. Next, as well, these are the options, these are the questions that are extracted from the case-based questions. Next, all these are the questions which are taken from the case-based question passage, assertion and reasoning as well. This is a sample question, which is a part of geography. So it is the same as the other assertion-based questions in the other subjects. However, here it is to be noted, map work is an integral part of geography. However, as in term 1, the assessment will be on MCQs. So students, they don't have to locate or label on the map. However, they have to identify different locations which will be given on the map, and MCQs will be given accordingly. In the next slide, we can see the sample questions which are given based on the map provided. This was all for social science. I would request Mr. Sarvesh Tiwari to explain about the revised syllabus of. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Priyanka ma'am. Good afternoon, dear all. I'm just explaining Hindi subject for grade 10th and 9th. So next slide. अपडेटेड सिलेबस CBSE का, जिसमें कि ग्रेड 10th के लिए फर्स्ट टर्म एग्जाम के लिए आप देखेंगे कि यहाँ सिलेबस को 3 पार्ट में डिवाइड किया गया है, जिसमें कि अनसीन पैसेज, ग्रामर और टेक्स्ट बुक, जिसमें स्पर्श भाग में काव्य खंड और गद्य खंड, जो कि पैसेज बेस्ड क्वेश्चन होंगे। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में हम देखेंगे कि एक जो 4th पार्ट है, नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। 4th पार्ट जहाँ पे आंतरिक मूल्यांकन यानी इंटरनल असेसमेंट, जिसमें कि सामयिक आकलन, इट मीन्स पीरियोडिक असेसमेंट, बहुविध आकलन यानी मल्टीपल असेसमेंट, पोर्टफोलियो एंड लिसनिंग एंड स्पीकिंग स्किल, जिसको ASL कहते हैं। तो यहाँ पर आप देखेंगे कि मार्क्स भी डिवाइड है, जो कि पीरियोडिक असेसमेंट के लिए 3 मार्क्स, मल्टीपल असेसमेंट 2 मार्क्स, पोर्टफोलियो 2 मार्क्स और लिसनिंग और स्पीकिंग स्किल के लिए 3 मार्क्स। तो कुल मिलाकर के 50 मार्क्स, जिसमें कि 40 मार्क्स आपके क्वेश्चन पेपर में होंगे और 10 मार्क्स इंटरनल असेसमेंट। CBSE ने प्रीवियस वन मैम प्लीज। CBSE ने यहाँ पर स्पर्श और जो कि पद्यखंड और गद्यखंड, जहाँ पे सिलेबस में कुछ चेंजेस के साथ टॉपिक दिए हैं, जिसमें कबीर की साखी, मीरा के पद और यहाँ प्रेमचंद, लीलाधर मंडलोई की ततारा और निदा फाजले की, जो कि न्यू चैप्टर ऐड हुआ है, अब कहाँ दूसरे के दुख से दुखी होने वाले। सो इस तरह से सिलेबस को डिवाइड किया गया है। जहाँ पे नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में ग्रेड 10th में सेकेंड टर्म में आप देखेंगे कि जो टर्म 1 के सिलेबस हैं उसको कंप्लीटली छोड़ दिया गया है, और यहाँ पर टर्म 2 में जो कि लिटरेचर पार्ट है, जो पहले ही सुजीत सर डिस्कस कर चुके हैं कि यहाँ पे कंप्लीटली आपका रिटन बेस होगा, और दूसरा लेखन पार्ट में क्रिएटिव राइटिंग रिलेटेड असेसमेंट होंगे। तो जो कि ग्रामर का पार्ट है और अनसीन पैसेज वो टर्म 1 में होंगे, और बाकी लिटरेचर का पार्ट और क्रिएटिव राइटिंग वो टर्म 2 में होगा, जिसके मार्क्स का डिवीजन 14 और 26 है। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। इसमें भी जो पीरियोडिक इंटरनल असेसमेंट है, जो टर्म 1 की तरह 4 पार्ट में डिवाइड होंगे, और जो न्यू अपडेटेड सिलेबस है जो कि CBSE ने सेंड किया, वो इस प्रकार से पद्यखंड और गद्यखंड तथा अनुपूरक, जो कि सप्लीमेंट्री बुक है, जिसके साथ संचयन भाग 2। उसी तरह से सेम हम ग्रेड 9th में भी देखते हैं कि टर्म 1 में 3 पार्ट में सिलेबस को डिवाइड किया है, जो कि ऑब्जेक्टिव टाइप होगा, जो 10 मार्क्स अनसीन पैसेज, ग्रामर और स्पर्श भाग 1, और पुनः जो 4th पार्ट है इंटरनल असेसमेंट का। सो इंटरनल असेसमेंट के लिए सेम पीरियोडिक असेसमेंट, मल्टीपल असेसमेंट, पोर्टफोलियो एंड लिसनिंग एंड स्पीकिंग स्किल। तो इस तरह से 50 मार्क्स में सिलेबस को डिवाइड किया गया, और अपडेटेड जो कि स्पर्श भाग 1 में चेंजेस हैं जिसमें कि गद्य खंड में यशपाल जी का दुख का अधिकार, एवरेस्ट मेरी शिखर यात्रा, और अगेन काव्य खंड में अब कैसे छूटे राम नाम, ऐसी लाल तुझ बिनु लागी, और रहीम के दोहे। तो इस तरह से टॉपिक ऑलरेडी डिसाइड कर दिया गया है और सिलेबस को रिड्यूस करके टर्म 1 में ऑब्जेक्टिव टाइप और टर्म 2 डिस्क्रिप्टिव, जिसमें नेक्स्ट स्लाइड टर्म 2 के लिए देखेंगे, ग्रेड 9th के लिए, कि आप अगेन यहाँ पे देखिए ग्रामर का जो पार्ट है और अनसीन पैसेज जैसे कि हटा दिया गया है, और टर्म 2 में आपको पाठ्य पुस्तक आधारित लिखने के लिए प्रश्न होंगे 14 मार्क्स के, और अगेन क्रिएटिव राइटिंग जो कि 26 मार्क्स के प्रश्न पूछे जाएंगे। सो इस तरह से 40 मार्क्स, और अगेन फिर इंटरनल असेसमेंट जो कि 4 पार्ट में डिवाइड होगा, जैसे कि टर्म 1 में हमने कंप्लीट किया। अपडेटेड यहाँ पर सिलेबस गद्य खंड और काव्य खंड का टर्म 2 के लिए, और कहा जो कि संचयन भाग है, तो यहाँ पे टॉपिक भी कंप्लीटली डिसाइड कर दिया गया है। नेक्स्ट जब क्वेश्चन पेपर की बात करते हैं तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ मिस्टर मधुबाला मैम से, वो आपको क्वेश्चन पेपर के बारे में क्या चेंजेज हैं, किस प्रकार के क्वेश्चन होंगे, कितना समय मिलेगा, इसके लिए वो पूरे डिटेल में आपको बताएंगी। मिस मधुबाला।
धन्यवाद सर, थैंक यू सो मच। गुड आफ्टरनून टू एवरीवन। तो जैसे कि सर ने आपको 10वीं और 9वीं कक्षा दोनों के लिए प्रथम सत्र और द्वितीय सत्र के विषय में जानकारी दी, मैं सिर्फ वही थोड़ा सा दोहरा के फिर प्रश्न पत्र के बारे में बात करूंगी। आप ये नोट कर लीजिए कि प्रथम सत्र में अपठित गद्यांश, अनसीन पैसेज, ग्रामर और जो स्पर्श है उसके कुछ पाठ हैं, और जो क्रिएटिव राइटिंग है और बचे हुए स्पर्श के पाठ और संचयन के पाठ वो सारे टर्म 2 में है। ये दोनों चीजें 9th और 10th दोनों के लिए है। तो प्रथम सत्र का जो प्रारूप है 40 अंक का प्रश्न पत्र होगा, और जैसे अन्य विषयों के लिए है 90 मिनट्स, 1 घंटा 30 मिनट का समय है, और इसके 3 खंड होंगे। खंड क जिसमें अनसीन पैसेज होगा, अपठित गद्यांश, खंड ख जो व्याकरण पर आधारित है, और खंड ग जो स्पर्श के पाठों पर आधारित है, वो पाठ जो टर्म 1 में CBSE ने अपडेट करके भेजे। खंड क में जो अपठित गद्यांश है उसमें 2 में से कोई एक करना होगा। उसी प्रकार प्रश्न 2 उसमें से भी 2 गद्यांश में से एक करना होगा। व्याकरण के लिए डायरेक्ट MCQ वाले प्रश्न हैं, और जो खंड ग है जो लिटरेचर पर आधारित है उसमें सीन पैसेज और सीन पोम स्टांजा आएंगे, मतलब पढ़े गए पाठों पर आधारित गद्यांश होगा और पद्यांश, और उस पर आधारित MCQ आएंगे। अच्छा, यहाँ पर एक बात और जानने योग्य है, जैसे बाकी विषयों में केस स्टडी बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस है या असर्शंस है, रीजनिंग है, तो इस प्रकार के प्रश्न भाषा में नहीं है, लेकिन जो अपठित गद्यांश है उसमें इस तरह के प्रश्न आएंगे। जैसे कि हम अगली स्लाइड में देखेंगे कि अपठित गद्यांश में कुछ प्रश्न होंगे जो नॉलेज बेस्ड होंगे, जिनके उत्तर गद्यांश में बच्चों को पढ़कर तुरंत मिलेंगे, लेकिन जो आकलन आधारित प्रश्न है या एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड है, वहां पर बच्चे को गद्यांश ध्यानपूर्वक पढ़ना होगा और फिर वो उत्तर ढूंढ पाएगा। यही नियम आपके पठित गद्यांश और काव्यांश पर है कि कुछ प्रश्न जो होंगे वो नॉलेज बेस्ड होंगे, जहां पर आपको प्रत्यक्ष शब्दार्थ या प्रत्यक्ष कविता की पंक्ति का अर्थ या प्रत्यक्ष आंसर उत्तर मिल जाएंगे, और कुछ प्रश्नों के लिए आपको आकलन आधारित एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड आपको आंसर देने होंगे। अगली स्लाइड में हम कुछ इस प्रकार के उदाहरण देखेंगे। जैसे कि आप देख सकते हैं गद्यांश पर आधारित प्रश्न है और उसके 4 विकल्प हैं। तो कुछ प्रश्न ऐसे हैं जिनके उत्तर आपको गद्यांश में एज इट इज मिल जाएंगे, और कुछ ऐसे होते हैं जैसे कि आप प्रश्न 2 में देख सकते हैं कि इस कथन के लिए तर्क बताइए कि आप ऐसा क्यों कह रहे हैं। तो इस प्रकार के आकलन आधारित एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस पठित गद्यांश, काव्यांश और अपठित दोनों पर होंगे। धन्यवाद। अब मैं चाहूंगी कि स्मिता मैम आए और मलयालम भाषा के विषय में जानकारी दें। ओवर टू यू स्मिता मैम।
Thank you, Madhubala ma'am. Good afternoon all. I am Smita Adarsh representing Malayalam department. I'll be explaining about the revised CBSE paper pattern. Like every other subject, it will be completely MCQ based for term 1. For grade 9 and 10, the pattern will be same. The marking scheme will be as follows. The question paper is divided into 2 sections. In section A, we will have comprehension of unseen prose, avadharanam, as well as transformation of sentences. Kartari, karmani, prayogam, vidhi, nishedha, vakyam. Both together will have 12 marks. In section B, we will have vocabulary building, Paryayam, Artha Vyathyasam, Nanartham, Vipareetham, Edirlingam, Pirichevuthu, Vigrahichavuthu. The weightage will be 8 marks. In section B, we will also have prose and poetry with the weightage of 20 marks. We will be adding 10 marks for internal assessment. Next slide, please. Marks for internal assessment will be calculated based on the following: periodic assessment 3 marks, multiple assessments 2 marks, portfolio 2 marks, subject enrichment 3 marks. We have 4 chapters for term 1 and the chapter's name will be in the next slide. 2 chapters from Gadyam, Kadal Teeratha, Panayam, Padyam, Lakshmana Sandvanam, Priyadarshanam. And now we will discuss about term 2. The term will have term 2 will be having written exam. All questions will be descriptive type. In section A, there will be transformation of sentences in grammar, Angavakyam, Angivakyam, Vakya Rachana, Vakya Shuddhi. And for writing section, essay writing, Ubanyasam, and for letter writing, Katta, report writing for newspaper, Patra Varta Tayarakal. And the total weightage for this section will be 22. Section B in literature, prose, poetry, and non-detail questions will be short answer type, and the total weightage will be 40 marks. Internal assessment scheme will be same for term 2. And the chapters for term 2 are from Gadyam, Yuddhathinte Parinamam, Padyam, Amma Thottil, Onamuttath. And from Chattambi Swamigal, non-detail, Aditya 9 Adhyayangal. As per CBSE question paper pattern, this is the sample model paper. It will be there in the next slide. Yeah, this is a passage comprehension. After the passage, they are given the questions and 4 options. We have to choose the correct option. Each question carries 1 mark. Total 40 questions will be there, and total weightage will be 40. രണ്ട് അവധാരണമാണ് ഉള്ളത്. ഇതിലെ second part vocabulary grammar ഉണ്ടാവുന്നതാണ്. And next it will be there for grade 9. Yes, grade 9, the same term exam, term 1 and 2, this following the same as grade 10. So we can see the chapter slides up. Okay, chapters are from Gadyam, Vellachattatinte Idimulakkam, രണ്ട് taxikar, from Padyam, Vishwam Deepamayam, Kalagal. Next slide, sir. The same like grade 10, we have discussed that. Next slide, please. Yeah, the chapters for grade second term is Arbhadathil ninnum Lalityathilekku, Padyam, Ambadiyilekku, Ade Prarthana, Tejasviyaയ Vagmi 6 mark. അത് ആദ്യത്തെ 9 അധ്യായമാണ് ഉള്ളത്. Thank you for listening. Next, Samir sir will explain about the French.
Thank you so much, Smita ma'am. A very good afternoon to all. This is Namit Kharbanda. I am taking care of the French department. I thank all the parents and students for their patient listening, and I request now the French students and their parents for the kind attention for the next few minutes. So now allow me to go through the radicalized syllabus of grade 10. Before we start, it is imperative that I explain to you the last year exam pattern vis-a-vis the current year's pattern. So as we all know that last year the exams were conducted in the month of March, and the paper comprised of 2 sections, that is section A and B. But now this year there are two papers, term 1 and term 2. Term 1 will be all objective and term 2 will be all subjective. So let me now apprise you of the term 1 pattern. So term 1 paper consists of 5 sections. Section A is unseen passage. So there will be a picture-based text. That means along with the text, there will be a picture too, which will help the students relate to the text. In total, there will be 14 questions, out of which the students have to attempt only 10. Section B will have a text or a message. So the questions will be in the form of fill in the blanks, and the options will be given to the students. In section C focuses on grammar. So there will be 4 questions in section C. First question would be compulsory, and it will be based on tenses. Then we would be left with 3 questions, out of which the students have to attempt only 2. Section D focuses on culture and civilization of France. 10 questions, there will be 14 questions in total, and the students have to attempt only 10, and the questions will be based from chapters 1 to 3. Now the CBSE has also introduced section E, which is internal assessment. The 4 components of internal assessment are periodic assessment, multiple assessment, portfolio, and ASL, listening and reading. So students will continuously be assessed on their speaking and listening too. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide talks about the syllabus of grade 1 for class 10th. So it shows that the paper consists of 50 marks. However, this will be scaled down to 40. So in the question paper, there will be 62 questions in total, out of which the students have to attempt 50, any 50 of the choice. So they have the buffer of 12 questions. However, out of 50, the marks will be scaled down to 40. So the next 10 marks is for their internal assessment. Yeah, coming to the weightage, previous slide, please. Yeah, so the paper has been divided into 4 sections. Section A is unseen passage. Section B is completing the text and message. Section C talks about grammar, and section D is culture and civilization. Next slide, please. So now we have taken a question from the sample paper which the CBSE has just released. So this is a picture-based text. Usually we always get the text, but this time they have introduced the picture also, which will help the students relate to the text. The questions are there on the next slide. So these are the questions which are based on the text, and for every question, multiple choices have been given. Next slide. There is one more question from section 2, that is section B, they're writing. They don't have to write anything. So the questions are in the form of fill in the blanks, and choices have been given. So out of 7, I think 5, they have to attempt 5 questions. Yeah, 5 out of 7. Next slide, please. Now we will move on to term 2. So by this time, the merry time of the students is over, because the whole paper is subjective now, and MCQs are all gone. So the paper again has been divided into 5 sections. Section A is unseen passage, wherein the students will get 7 questions, out of which they have to attempt any 5. So the questions will be very short answer questions. Section B is long composition. So they will get an option of 3 letters, out of which they have to attempt only 1. And this section will be of 10 marks. And the lessons will be based on the chapters 4, 7, and 8. Section C again is grammar. There will be 4 questions, wherein the first question will be compulsory. That will be based on tenses again. And then out of the remaining 3 questions, the students need to attempt only 2. The topics are mentioned in the syllabus. It is possessive pronouns, reported speech, and juvela question. Section D focuses on the literature. So the students will be assessed from lessons 4, 7, and 8. They will be given 8 questions, and they have to attempt only 5. So the questions will be short answer questions. Internal assessment, the 4 components again are periodic assessment, multiple assessment, portfolio, and listening and speaking. So every component has equal weightage of 2.5 marks. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the syllabus for term 2. We have already discussed the syllabus that only 3 chapters will be coming, 4, 7, and 8. We can go to the next slide now. Now let's have a look at the course structure of grade 9. So it has been divided into 5 parts. Section A, it is very similar to grade 10. The section A consists of 5 marks. 14 questions would be given and the students have to attempt any 10 questions of this choice. Section B will have questions on a recipe, that is the completion of recipes, postcard or a message. So they don't have to write again, it is all objective. So out of 14 questions, 10 questions they have to attempt and there would be choices for every blank. Section C talks about grammar. The first question is compulsory and out of remaining 3 questions, they have to attempt any 2. So out of 4 questions, they have to attempt any 3, but the first question would be compulsory. That would be based on verbs. And section D focuses on culture and civilization of France. So the syllabus for culture and civilization is first 4 lessons. And the students have to attempt 10 questions out of 14. Questions would be in the form of fill in the blanks, that is true or false, and 1 word short questions, short answers. Section E talks about their internal assessment. The 4 components are periodic assessment, multiple assessment, portfolio, and listening and speaking. Next slide, please. The syllabus we have already discussed. It is first 4 chapters and the paper would be divided in 4 sections. Section A, you will again get picture-based text. Section B, you might get a question on recipe, postcard, or a message. Section C will have all grammar questions. And section D will cater to the questions related to culture and civilization of France. We can now move on to the next slide. So coming to term 2, you can leave MCQ questions behind. So now it will be all subjective. So paper will be of 40 marks. However, the marks will be out of 50, but it will be later scaled down to 40. So section A is of 5 marks. There would be an unseen passage. The students will get 7 questions, out of which they have to attempt any 5. The questions will be of short answer questions type. Section B, there will be a long composition question. So the students would be required to write a letter, an informal letter, and they will be given 3 options, out of which they have to write a letter on any one topic. Section C focuses on grammar. There would be total 4 questions. First question would be compulsory, and out of the remaining 3, 2 questions have to be by the students. This section will be of 15 marks. Coming to the section D, which focuses on culture and civilization, the syllabus would be lesson 5 to 8. The students will get 8 questions, out of which they have to attempt any 5. So with that, I come to the end of my share of slides. Now I would like to invite, okay, so we have the syllabus too. Syllabus I have already talked in my previous slide. So there is not much to talk about the syllabus. Now I would like to invite Ms. Punita to give her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to all. I am Punita, Head of Tamil Department. Now I will be explaining about the Term 1 assessment for grade 9 and 10. It consists of MCQ 40 marks plus internal assessment 10 marks. Periodic test will be carried out as a part of internal assessment for 3 marks. Multiple assessment will be carried out soon after completion of each chapter, which comprises of 2 marks. Portfolio is one of the elements of internal assessment, which will be of 2 marks. Listening and speaking will be assessed in regular classes for 3 marks. Next slide, please. Syllabus for Term 1. Term 1 has 3 years. Unseen passage 5 marks. Grammar section is of 12 marks. Here we have Eluthu, Sol, Togainilai Thodargal, Toganilai Thodargal. Next slide, please. Literature section 23 marks. For prose, we have Tamil Solvalam, Ketkiradha en Kural, Virundu Potrugam. For poem, we have Annai Moliye, Ratra Molidal, Kaatre Va, Kasi Kandam, Malaipadu Kadam, Tirukural. And for non-detail, we have Urai Nadain Aninalangal, Kuelile Uruthoni, and Kopalapurathu Makkal. Next slide, please. For term 2 syllabus, we have EL 4 to 6 plus writing section, which consists of official or informal or email letter, essay writing, and picture description. The assessment will consist of MCQs, short answer and long answer. Duration 2 hours and marks 40, plus internal assessment similar to term 1. Next slide, please. This is the question paper pattern for grade 10. We have 3 sections. Section A, reading. It contains 2 comprehension of unseen passage. One passage is from the literature, another will be an unknown passage, 10 marks. Section B, grammar. Give example, fill in the blanks, do as direct, Ilakana Kurippu. All has 5 questions each. Only 3 questions are required to be written. So there are 2 questions of internal choices for each topic. Section C, literature, Kural fill-ups, MCQ, 3 questions, 3 marks. Poem comprehension, MCQ, 7 questions are given, but only 5 questions are required to be written. So there are 2 questions of internal choices for each topic. Literature question, MCQ, 5 questions, 5 marks. Non-detail unseen passage, MCQ, 5 questions, 5 marks. So total 50 questions will be given. Only 40 questions are required to be attended and 10 questions are choices. Next, please. Here is a sample questions for one of the source-based question. Next, we will be discussing about grade 9 Tamil SL. Syllabus for term 1 has 3 years. Unseen passage 5 marks. Grammar section is of 12 marks. Here we have Todar Ilakkanam, Tunai Vinaigal, Valinamigum Idangal. Next slide, please. Literature section 23 marks. For prose, we have Dravida Moli Kudumam, Neerinji Amayadu Uladu, Yeru Taluvudal. For poem, we have Tamil Oviyam, Tamil Viduthudu, Patta Maram, Periya Puranam, Purananuru, Mani Megalai, Tirukural. And for non-detail, we have Valarum Selvam, Tannir, Agalaivugal. Next slide, please. For term 2 syllabus, we have EL 4 to 6 plus writing section, which consists of official or informal or email letter, essay writing, and picture description. The assessment will consist of MCQs, short answer and long answer. Duration 2 hours and 40 marks plus internal assessment similar to term 1. Next slide, please. This is the question paper pattern for grade 9. We have 3 sections. Section A, reading. It contains 2 comprehension of unseen passage. One passage is from the literature, another will be an unknown passage, 10 marks. Section B, give example, fill in the blanks, do as direct, Ilakana Kurippu, all has 5 questions each. Only 3 questions are required to be written. So there are 2 questions of internal choices for each topic. Section C, literature, Kural fill-ups, MCQ, 3 questions, 3 marks. Poem comprehension, MCQ, 7 questions are given, but only 5 questions are required to be written. So there are 2 questions of internal choices for each topic. Literature questions, MCQ, 5 questions, 5 marks. Non-detail unseen passage, MCQ, 5 questions, 5 marks. So total 50 questions will be given. Only 40 questions are required to be attended and 10 questions are choices. Thank you. May I invite Mr. Nazrullah sir to continue with his presentation.
Shukran jazilan, Sayyida Punita. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Masal Khair and good afternoon to everyone. I am Rasulullah Hussain, representing Arabic department. First, we will start from course structure for grade 1. For term 1, question paper will be divided into 3 sections. Section A, unseen passage, 14 marks. Section B, grammar, 10 marks. And section C, literature and poetry, 16 marks. Total 40 marks. And all questions will be MCQ based. And 10 marks for internal assessment. Internal assessment, it will different from other languages for Arabic. Handwriting, 2.5 marks. Reading one small passage without diacritical marks. It means without dhamma, fatha and kasra. In South Asia, we say without zabar, zer and pesh. For that, 2.5 marks. Arabic speaking, 2.5 marks. And oral applied grammar, 0.5 marks. So total 50 marks. Next slide. Next slide, sir. Next slide, course structure grade 10, term 2. It will be divided into 5 sections. Section A, reading skill, 5 marks, unseen passage. Section B, writing section. Writing section, 10 marks. Section C, grammar and transition, 10 marks. Section D, 15 marks. And section E, internal assessment, 10 marks. As we discussed about first term. But second term, it will be objective types. Next slide. Next slide, course structure for grade 9, term 1. Term 1, it will be divided into 4 sections. Section A, unseen passage, 14 marks. Section B, grammar, MCQs, 10. Section C, literature and poetry, 16. And internal assessment, 10 marks, same like grade 10. And for grade 9, there will be 10 lessons, 9 prose and 1 poet. Next slide, sir. For grade 9, second term, course structure, it will be divided into 5 sections. Section A, reading skills, 5 marks. Writing section, 10. Section C, grammar and transition, 10. And section D, literature and poetry, 15 marks. And 10 marks for internal assessment. It's same structure like grade 10. This is the general instructions for the paper. Section A will have comprehension on 2 unseen passages. Each passage will have 10 questions, out of which 7 to be attempted, 1 mark each. Total 14 marks for section A. Section B will consist of 10 questions related to grammar, 1 mark each. Total 10 marks for section B. Section C will consist of 24 questions from main course book, 1 mark each, out of which 16 are to be attempted. Total 16 marks for section C. Internal assessment we have discussed earlier. So handwriting 2.5 marks, reading one small passage without diacritical marks 2.5 marks, Arabic speaking 2.5 marks, oral applied grammar 2.5 marks. And this is the sample question paper, same pattern for grade 9 and 10. There will be unseen passage. So this is the passage. The student will read the passage and will choose the correct answer. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nasrullah. And yes, indeed, thank you all the subject leaders and each subject teacher and every subject teachers for giving a complete description about your subject and explaining each section so meticulously. I really appreciate your hard work. And of course, moving up next, we have the questions and answers, as I have informed in the earlier, that you can drop a question in the chat box. As I can see that there are no concerns except for one where it was asked to share the recordings, and I have told clearly, I have mentioned that the recording of this orientation will be uploaded in the school YouTube channel, and definitely the link will be shared with all the parents of grade 9 and 10. So you can use the link and see for the orientation video. Having said this, well, and with this, we come to the end of this memorable afternoon. You all have witnessed a very elaborate orientation about the revised curriculum, exam pattern, and also some sample questions for each subject, assessment structure, and details of examination conducted for the academic year 2021-22. I also thank our respected principal ma'am and the respected headmistress, secondary school headmistress, Miss Madhu Upal, for taking this great initiative of conducting this orientation to clear all the concerns of the parents. And I would also request parents, if you have any concern, kindly feel free to reach out to the subject teachers or subject leaders or the HRTs, and we will definitely get back to you with the concern. And yes, with the consent, thank you everyone for joining in virtually, and with the consent of our principal ma'am, we now declare the orientation be over. And may I request our esteemed attendees to leave the meeting. Thank you all once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
End the meeting.
Thank you, sir.